This week we didn't have a lot to talk about, so I basically rant on Mark Zuckerberg the whole time.
Yeah, we talked about South Park.
Yeah, check it out.
This week in our collective heads, wanna put an old rumor to bed. Stereotype that you've all heard, how we're all just angry video game nerds. Most of us have actual jobs, kids and families and cats and dogs, yeah. This week in our collective heads, this week in our collective heads.
Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads, the gaming news show that all of you love and adore. I think we are now the top-rated podcast and YouTube channel for gaming news of two guys who do this for fun.
Exactly.
And I'm really happy about that. We give you all of the news that you may or may not have missed throughout the week. We try to make it entertaining for you, give you actual context. Because if you're just reading, oh, this guy did this thing and this person announced this, you're just like, okay, what does it matter? We're going to tell you why it matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things that matters to us is backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
And that's something that's pretty exciting because that's important for the preservation of old games, and because like you can go back and there's been pretty good archiving of like the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo. Like all of those are available as ROMs, but then you reach a certain point and it's like. It's kind of like there's some GameCube.
It's harder and they're big. They're huge.
There's some GameCube games that have never been successfully emulated, and so like you can only play this game if you have a GameCube. Yeah. So they're doing their thing.
We'll start off with Goat Simulator, and Goat Simulator is one of my favorite games that came out of nowhere. You know, where you literally are a goat and you run around as a goat, licking things and causing mayhem. Which is pretty cool to me.
The girls love that one.
It's hilarious.
Like, I have rarely seen them laugh that hard playing a game.
That's another thing that I like about it is that it works for all ages.
Oh, yeah.
It's not one that's vulgar. It doesn't have any weird humor about it. The goat doesn't do anything perverse. It's just a goat wrecking things.
Yeah, and people ragdolling everywhere.
Yes. We also got some other games like Child of Eden. Mm-hmm. Have you played Child of Eden? Didn't you?
Child of Eden is. Well, I'm going to need to cover this one because there's a lot of religious implications here.
Yeah.
So, Eden is the best known as the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. But what very few people don't know is in the book of the Bible, pre-Genesis.
Okay.
There's actually
this is the one that was thrown out. Pre-Genesis was right before Genesis.
It's apocryphal.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Because it talks about there was nothing anywhere. And I was like, yeah, but then there was some parts that were skipped over in that first chapter. And one of those was Eden, after whom the garden was named.
Oh, okay.
And so the Child of Eden is actually the caretaker of the Garden of Eden because he inherited it from his dad.
Gotcha.
And so he is the Child of Eden watching over the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. And I've never understood why I didn't mention him in the Bible. Probably because he's made up for this game. But yeah, so it was.
And
it was
so is the game.
That too. So it was an attempt for him to kind of channel Adam and Eve toward more environmental concerns and everything. So he's trying to maintain the garden, and Adam and Eve are just wandering around naked, screwing everything up. One of the reasons you might not have heard of it is because there's copious nudity. Yeah. Because Adam and Eve were naked all the time.
Yes, they were.
When I first heard about this game, I was hoping that they would do like a Wilson thing from Home Improvement, and there would be like...
there's a bush that happens to be here, and like there be a tree.
And as they walk out of that, there's a dog that walks in front. I mean, I think that would have been a really cool idea, but they chose not to do that, and as a result, you've never heard of this game.
Also, the game doesn't exist.
Yes.
As is tradition that we make up games that don't exist if we don't know what the backwards compatible game is. Like KOF. Speaking of nudity, KOF Sky Stage. So KOF, it originally started as a indie game that was only on PC.
Okay.
And it was kill or...
See, I thought it was King of Fighters.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, see, it's actually...
That would be the confusion.
It's very different.
Killer.
So there's no Mary. It's the Mary kill.
Yeah.
So it's that game, except it was just two choices. You don't get to marry anybody.
Right.
So the originally was that, and it was just way too absurd. There's nudity and there's violence, and there was both all at the same time. Like there was sex and violence, but literally at the same time.
Yeah.
And the censors got onto it, but people were like, well, you can't censor our game because it was at the time free. But then when they wanted to do it on Xbox, they had to change it a lot. So it became a top-down isometric game where, kind of like Hotline Miami, where you go around, but depending on what you're doing, you can either kill or fornicate. With whatever is there. And you can actually do both sometimes.
Okay, and this is the Sky Stage. So is there anything particular about this version?
Yes, because this includes the DLC where you also skydive.
Okay.
Yes, while doing that. And
while killing. Okay, so I would imagine then that this is the basis for that opening scene in Saints Row 3 where you're coming out of the plane.
That's where they took it.
Except instead of crates of materials or whatever, it would be cages of humans.
Cages of humans, sometimes just random humans of varying sexes and varying sizes, and you do everything to them.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do to them.
All right. So those are the two games that we get to make up this week. That's one of my favorite things. I honestly don't know if anybody else enjoys it, but we have a lot of fun.
We enjoy it because I have no idea what those were, and if I can't read it and know exactly what it is, I even looked up KOF Sky Stage, like just Google images, and was like, nope, doesn't ring a bell. So. That's what we do. So the main topic this week, by the way, if you stay till the end of the podcast or the next YouTube video that'll be released, is actually going to be about loot boxes. And this is becoming a huge thing in regards to microtransactions. We want to talk about loot boxes and the effect on not only the economy, but also the psyche of people.
Yeah.
Very important. So stick around for that if you're listening to the podcast. And if not, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get that video later.
Right. And then our other thing that we're doing is we're going to be discussing the TWIOCH, which is the topic of the episode show. And this week we are talking about single screen adventures.
Yes.
So screens that don't scroll or move or anything. It's just like, hey, here's a box.
Yes.
Play in the box.
Exactly. A lot of old school, some new school too.
Some new school.
So pretty cool stuff.
There you go.
So let's start off by talking about an acquisition that happened this week, which was Humble Bundle, which many PC gamers love and adore, which I enjoy. Was just bought out by IGN.
Right.
And I don't know exactly how this is going to weigh out. I don't distrust IGN, so it's not like if a certain game maker or someone bought it out, it doesn't make me feel like it's in the wrong hands. I'm just curious what they're going to do with it. If they continue to just run with it this way, maybe put their own review spins on it where they can highlight certain things, it could be a good synergistic thing for them where they can start talking about reviewing a specific series, and by the way, here's the Humble Bundle link. Yeah. So it may work for them.
I can see that, and the VP said that basically they just wanted to make sure that this continues, that this service is an excellent business. It's also an excellent charity because a lot of the proceeds go to that, and it allows some developers to come up where they might not have been as visible before. Humble Bundle is a very niche place, but it does get a lot of eyeballs on your product and let people know, hey, this is a thing that exists.
And usually you're getting 12, 15 games or so, and you can pay the regular price, or there's an average because you can do additional money, which is what goes to the charities and everything. So I've never seen that additional money go above like $10 or $11, maybe $12 tops.
Yeah.
I think most I've seen it's like $11.30 something. So okay, I'm literally paying less than $1 per game in a lot of cases. It goes to a charity. I have games that I can mess around with if I want. Sometimes there's maybe one thing you want in there. It's a really good thing.
It's like, yeah, I'll pay $12 for that.
I'll pay $12 for that one game and give money. It's like giving money to charity. Yeah. So just view it that way.
It's literally giving money to charity.
And being charitable to a developer that may or may not have gotten the love. So
exactly.
It's good stuff.
So there you go. The next thing is one that has been reported by two separate sites, Destructoid and a PC site with which I'm not familiar. But they said that the concurrent player count on Lawbreakers dropped to 10.
Yes.
Which is, for those of you who are counting, that is enough people to have a 5v5 match.
Yes.
And only one.
This is after they had a free weekend. They had a free weekend where they hit a grand total of 2,000 players.
Yeah.
For a free weekend for something that the genre is yes, being completely dominated by Overwatch.
Yeah.
But there's enough bleed through, in my opinion, for people who are playing Overwatch or like those style of games to jump in on a free weekend. We do this. We jump on free weekends all the time to check out new things, not only for the show, but also just to keep up to date with some new stuff that's going on, some really interesting stuff. This game has really interesting, really unique abilities, and to hit 2,000 players on a free weekend is just nothing. And now, if you hit, I saw between 100. I saw 100 some evenings and 10. You can go on Steam and look at the average of people who playing people who are playing that right now. Not average, current players.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculously sad for a game like this. This is Cliff Blavinsky's. See, as I stumble over his name, right?
Yeah.
It's his project. So this should have a little more traction on it than it does. So it's really unfortunate.
And it has a tone, and I think that it, in some ways, it kind of suffers from the same thing that like Duke Nukem Forever did. Was that Cliff Blazinski's style of F-bombs for the sake of F-bombs and blowing up and gratuitous. Okay, but if the game itself is not interesting, then that it doesn't do anything for people. Yeah. And so it's just another example of how unpredictable the gaming market can be, because like if you look, you would think that this would have been successful, and there was money thrown behind it, but it just didn't work for players.
It did. I was trying to find the current player count, but I'm not seeing it on here. I mean, it's really low and sad. Especially for a game that looks as polished as it is. I've seen a lot of gameplay of it, and it's not.
It looks polished. Mm-hmm. It looks chaotic, and I can't tell what's happening.
So, but Quake Arena is the same way. Quake Arena is so quick.
It is super fast, but it's so much less busy than this one, because with this everything has an animation.
Yeah.
From people using jetpacks, there's extra filter and particle graphics and everything. Everybody's flinging their ropes, and you can see the ropes, and like there's a lot of extra information that to me seems like it would be actually detrimental to being able to tell what's going on.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
But one thing that you can tell what's going on is in Shadow of War, because there's lots of orcs and lots of fun in that.
Yeah, that game is beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
You got to play it this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're talking about it here, I mean, not only is it a good game, but also the copyright protection of this was hacked, was broken, which
in under 24 hours.
And this is de novo. This is supposed to be the new hotness, the unbreakable, or close enough to.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's basically the analogy, and sorry for any hackers out there. It's the million monkeys hammering away at keyboards until they churn out Shakespeare. It's like there are too many people who are too dedicated and too excited about this thing.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen, because when some of the first games that came out, it would last a month, and it's been consistently getting weaker and weaker, and so that was cracked in under 24 hours. We suggest you buy it. There's.
I suggest you buy it and don't buy loot boxes. But we'll talk about that in the main topic.
We will.
I mean, it's a good game. Again, supporting developers, but supporting, if you want to play this game, buy the game. If you want to stick it to the man, I'm not recommending this, but if you want to stick it to the man because you're not happy with their practices in regards to loot boxes, you could do this now. Not saying that's the right thing to do.
I haven't actually seen the loot boxes yet in the game. Like there's a bunch of menus and stuff that say, hey, there's things that you could click on, and I'm like, play game. There it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And so like I got into the game, and I haven't been.
Yeah, I mean. This is the one that we discussed this last week or the week before last. This is the game. This is a game that was play tested and worked without microtransactions, without loot boxes.
Right.
Then the EA basically came in and said, "We want loot boxes in your game," and the developer said
WB.
It's WB. Sorry, WB. I want to say EA because I hate EA. WB came in and said we actually loot boxes in there, and went, okay, I guess we have to do that now.
We could do that.
So they've play tested this without loot boxes the whole time, meaning if you don't want to participate in that, your experience is going to be good and balanced. Yeah. It's not your now. If you did get loot boxes, if you felt like doing that and you had extra money lying around, it can help your game a little bit. It's not pay to win, but it's a little easier.
Yeah.
So, still don't agree with it.
Yeah. We'll discuss that in the main topic in the other video.
We will.
So speaking of dragons, as we typically do,
yes,
Laidlaw, Mike Laidlaw was the director of a lot of games in BioWare. He was the director of Origins. He was the director of pretty much the entire. What's it called?
Dragon Age. Dragon 1,
Dragon
2, Origins. Did he do Inquisition? I think he did. I don't remember.
I don't know, so I'm not going to say for sure. But he's been working at BioWare for 14 years, and he is left to pursue other projects. We'll see where that goes. But his direction was essential, and one of the things that I really appreciated in stories that I heard about him was how important to him the continuity of the stories were.
Yeah.
Because they took the time to build a really interesting world. For Dragon Age, for people to discover and everything. And so a lot of times there's a temptation to take an IP, an environment, a world that you've created, and then be like, okay, for the next game, let's, up to 11. Yeah. And let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah.
And they managed to enhance gameplay mechanics and make those different every time, but without sacrificing the universe that they had created. And I always really appreciated that. So we wish him luck in whatever his next ventures are.
Yeah.
And we will let you know what those are when we find out.
Yeah. Should be, hopefully greener pastures. A bright future, if you will. This is happening more and more in the industry where people are leaving their longtime homes. And it's not, I don't think it's it's a sad thing for BioWare, but now we may get to see some up and comer, take that seat and run with it. So we'll keep you posted on it.
Another thing that I think could be interesting is that there will be ideas that Mike Laidlaw had while he was working on Dragon Age that didn't fit for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And he can, put those in a notebook, put those aside, and then be like, I'll get to that later.
Yep. And now he can. Now he has time to do that. So it's really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. So South Park comes out on Tuesday, and I'm really happy about it, The Fractured Butthole, and I really enjoyed the first game, and the episode that aired this previous week is a quasi prequel to The Fractured Butthole.
It actually ends with the trailer that we saw for Fractured Butthole.
Yeah.
So
I say quasi prequel because I don't know if any of the while Kuhn and friends are in there and they did set up a rift between the group. I don't think, other than the fact that Kuhn and friends are there and that they're not all working together now. Other than that, I don't know what else they're really setting up in here, because the rest of the show dealt with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg,
right?
And Facebook basically letting you post whatever you want on Facebook, and that's now a fact. Like, you posted someone, Professor Chaos was posting things online that were against Kuhn and friends, that were complete lies, but because it's on Facebook, it's true.
Yeah, and that's how truth works.
And Mark Zuckerberg defended that because they paid him $17.42. So it was Mark Zuckerberg running around blocking people, and dubbed like a kung fu movie. But anytime someone came up, he was like, "Oh, let's see what kind of style you have," and then he would go, block them, but just doing that. So then Kuhn and friends attacked him by doing that, by going.
I would love to see a live action version of like grown people playing, because when you watch the South Park when they play like that, that is how we play.
That's how kids play. Yeah.
You make your own sound effects and your own death noises and your own guns.
Yep,
it's fun.
It was really poignant. They didn't. This is the second time they've kind of hit. I mean, well, they hit everything. Every single week they hit something that's ridiculously topical because they come out with it during the previous week.
6-8 there.
Yeah. So the previous episode or the episode before it dealt with distracted driving, with texting while driving. And they segued that. They had that going on, and they also had the president, who is actually Mr. Garrison in this, but he's basically doing Donald Trump.
Right.
Talking about how, Korea doesn't matter, and we're going to bomb the hell out of them. And so a specific character, Tweak, sent them cupcakes to say, we it's a peace offering that not all Americans hate you, and the president tweeted out, "You think Tweak is scared of you? We're gonna, he doesn't give a shit. You can bomb him, whatever. Like, he's not scared of you bombing him." So everyone freaking out. So they segued those two together to make a song about how if you're president, put it down, like put your phone down. As in, if you're driving, put your phone down.
Yeah.
You're in a important role now. Be an adult. Don't be distracted. Concentrate on what's going on in the world or in driving. So they do a really good job of that.
I haven't watched South Park in years, but I respect the heck out of those
The
guys.
last 3 years have been just knocking it out the park. It's not as much, there's cursing and everything, but it's not as much about like disgusting poop jokes. It's kind of how Rick and Morty is, where it's like, we're going to be vulgar, but it's also poignant.
Yeah.
The difference being that South Park can do it immediately.
Yeah.
It's really excellent.
And it's also really amazing because they've been doing this for so long and they've been so successful. Speaking of successful things, we got news this week that Cuphead, which was 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Has sold 1 million copies.
I'm so happy.
And yay for them, because Cuphead
That's
is
the current stage I'm on, by the way.
awesome.
It's so good.
Cuphead is the best.
It's amazing. It's beautiful animation. It's hardcore gaming.
Holy crap! That was the fight with the yay. No, I'm sorry. That was the Mega Man 2 Dragon. When you're trying to That's awesome.
There's so much here. So, I'm loving Cuphead, and in addition to playing Cuphead, I got my the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, which also you can mod if you want to throw that into the news this week. There is a mod for it. We don't condone piracy, so downloading a ROM that you don't own technically is piracy. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But you could mod your Super Nintendo and throw ROMs on it. I'm just saying.
And that also means that you could get the fan translation of Final Fantasy VI, which is superior.
You can get the fan translations of that. You can get homebrew Super Nintendo games as long as they're the right. Every now and then I've run into compatibility issues because I tried it out for you guys, and it rocks. The save states in it it makes it easier than a Raspberry Pi. People are saying, "We'll just get a Raspberry Pi." Yeah. The operating system for this is better. But between Cuphead and that, I've been playing a lot of old school style gaming.
Yeah.
And so I started playing last night. I played a little bit of The Lion King on Super Nintendo. And The Lion King is one of the hardest games. I'd say it's harder than Dark Souls.
There's a couple of stages in there that are just absolutely brutal, and I don't know how they expected 7-year-olds to beat this.
My first try, I couldn't beat the first level. It took me, I think, 4 or 5 tries to beat the first level.
Yeah, Cameron challenged me to play Shadow of War on hard. And that kicked the Nemesis system into high gear immediately, and so I've got 3 Nemesis, and I've got 3 turns to kill them before they.
Wow.
Shadow of War is awesome. They took the Nemesis system and just ramped it up and made it so much more wonderful.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I've got way too many games to play, but I really do want to play that.
No, I've got this.
You
one
got
covered.
this one. Okay, I've got other games that I should be playing, I guess.
And you can pick it up when it drops to $4 someday. Because Shadow of Mordor got to insanely low prices.
But didn't it come out 2.5 years ago?
Yeah. But there's also, I've never seen Skyrim for less than 25.
But because it's Skyrim.
Yeah, this is Shadow of. I disagree. I tried them both.
You tried them both, but people will continue to pay $20, $25, $30 for Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
And when Shadow of War was $25 or $30, people weren't buying it. So they kept dropping
Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah. They kept dropping the price. Yeah. That's why it hit $5.
Yeah.
Because no one was buying it.
Yeah, that's what you think.
No, it's the sales. That's the sales. Speaking of sales, Oculus and more Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg announced Oculus Go. So Oculus Go is the midpoint between a mobile and a PC version of VR, because if you have mobile, it's very it's contingent on what type of device you have. You have PC,
and
hook it up.
it's mostly non-interactive.
Yeah, or
you're watching.
Or PS4 or PC, I'd put that in the right category, where you have to hook it up to something else that does the computing.
Right.
And they were saying we want that sweet spot of a standalone. So they said we're going to come out with Oculus Go, which is their midpoint sweet spot between the two.
Yeah.
Now
it's going to be $200,
Yep.
and it's going to come with the controllers that the Oculus uses.
It comes with one simplified version of the Oculus controller. Now here's where you start the misinformation, because also they have another VR project that they're going to be coming out with that is also midpoint between Rift and Gear VR, because that midpoint is Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz comes out with these amazing headphones. It also has 6 points of articulation in regards to tracking your head, and it tracks your head against your hands. The sensors on here are going to actually track your hands versus your head, and everything will work cohesively. So as soon as I heard about Oculus Go, you texted me about it, and I was like, this is going to be simplified, this is going to be dumbed down, this is not going to be powerful. But their idea is they want to get VR in everyone's hands.
And that's the thing is once you play VR, you're like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, this is pretty wonderful."
Yeah.
And so they need to, and as they're able to get that into people's hands, people will be able to see, and they will be able to understand why it's worth the price of admission, because the price of admission is really, really high, and until you are a VR believer, you're not interested.
And I can't lose my point yet, or I can't lose the point yet, but I did have a prediction saying that I thought that PlayStation VR was going, by the end of 2018.
Okay.
PlayStation VR was going to be the clear winner, if you will, the one that most people adopted.
Yeah.
In regards to Oculus versus PlayStation VR, I don't count the mobile portion because it's
that's not
too.
Really a
it's
thing.
too, so. I'm going to guess that I'm going to lose my point, because I think a lot of people are going to grab this because it's only $200. That being said, everything that I've seen in regards to this, the specs I've seen people report, they're reporting Santa Cruz specs, not the PlayStation Go. The Oculus Go specs, and it's confusing because it's an hour and a half long
They're coming after
seminar.
your point.
Yeah, they're coming after my point. They purposely. They gave an hour and a half presentation. So if you didn't want to listen through the hour and a half presentation, which most people didn't, then people go and they're like, all right, well, what's the deal with this? And they find some guy who wrote it, and he wrote the wrong information, because I sat through an hour and a half presentation of Mark Zuckerberg and these other guys, and Zuckerberg, first of all, he took he took my idea that I already patented, so I'm going to go after you for that.
Did you patent it on this show?
I patented it on this show, but I didn't send any patent paperwork in.
Yeah. Who needs that?
Yeah, so they are going to push. They're going to one of the things, in addition to games and all that, is they had Oculus venues, which was watching live performances of artists, switching between cameras, and they're working with specific venues to have camera setups set up there, which is what I said a year and a half ago.
That was something that I feel like we made that together.
Because
I had the thing
on this.
I had the thing. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had the idea, or we had the idea of having it at venues and allowing you to see live performances, and then you had a bit more articulation as far as and specifics.
Yes,
and
we both had the idea of tours when it comes to like the Louvre or the Great Pyramids or Machu Picchu. There's so many places I would love to go, and a lot of people would love to go, but you can't. But they don't have $5,000 to $6,000 and a week and a half off, and these are luxuries. So I think that Oculus and VR is going to lend itself very well, and we're on track to get towards Ready Player One levels of awesomeness.
And virtual tourism is going to be a huge thing, and I think that I would love to be able to tour places like Chernobyl, places that are not safe for humans to go. That sounds like fun.
And there's one in Japan that speaking of that, there's one in Japan that's similar, where it's too radioactive. That the only people who are going there are people in the big hazmat suits, or I don't know if you heard about this, like elderly who have volunteered to go in because they're like, well, if the radiation level is low enough that it's not going to give them radiation sickness immediately, it may give them cancer down the line. Well, and they're like, well, I'm 70 years old, so
on my way out,
I'll volunteer to help and clean this stuff up.
That's interesting.
Because if I hit cancer, well, I may or may not hit 95 anyways.
Right.
So they're basically saying I could get cancer anyways. I'm, towards the end of it, which I thought was really commendable.
That is admirable.
Right. So
yeah, that's where we're hoping VR goes.
Yes, I hope that the VR gets into what they said was they wanted VR in the hands of 1 billion people, and that is a very, very ambitious number. But it's also a really it's doable at a low enough price point. And what I think is going to happen is you're going to get this. This is going to be very, very budget. It's going to get more people to get into VR. The people who really like it will invest in the Santa Cruz or something else, where they get a little beefier. I don't think we got to talk about this last week. If we did, I'm blanking on it. But the new PlayStation VR that's coming out in Japan has better processing and better visuals.
That I hadn't seen.
Yeah, so it hasn't been announced for the United States,
okay.
But it's announced for Japan. So it makes me say, okay, maybe I want to wait on the PlayStation. But at the same time, what I was kind of getting at it here is you have more competition. Mm-hmm. More competition is always a good thing, which means the prices are going to get better and the products are going to get better for everyone.
Indeed.
Happy about that. So anyways, that's it for the gaming news this week. Let us know in the comments what your preferred VR method is and what you would prefer to use VR for.
Yeah. And tell us where you want to go in virtual reality. See you next week. Thanks for watching This Week in Our Collective Heads. Subscribe over here and click the bell. And that way you'll know about any new videos that we put up, because we put up a lot of gameplay, a lot of stories from games and stuff like that, and gameplay is down here.
Yeah, and you got more editorials and news stuff down here. Check it out.